today's event is going to be about how to get to your first 10K MRR as a startup. What I want to talk about today is this here, how to get to your first 10K MRR as a startup. And apologies for any of those that get a little bit annoyed that I've got a few tabs open. The reason for this is I'm going to switch between the slides and actual real world examples. So although I think slides are important, I want to show you real world evidence. I want to show you some softwares, different bits that are going to really help you. For a lot of you that are already here, thank you so much for taking the time to come back. If I've met you on accelerator programs, startups, or you've just received one of my million invitations to you on LinkedIn to join, thank you. If you haven't met me before, very quick introduction. So I'm a father of 2 children. I had a baby boy 3 weeks ago, and it's a very special time now for having no sleep and doing a lot of changing nappies and that sort of thing. But it's a wonderful moment for me to have that. In terms of a business capacity, I'm the founder of prospectlabs.co, which is a LinkedIn lead generation software agency and training academy. And then I also have another side where I constantly work with startups. So I'm a growth coach to Start Wise Guys, which I'm honored to be associated with and working with. And I would say they're one of Europe's leading, if not leading, B2B accelerator. And my role with them is training some of the teams, helping them with the sales structure, and also introducing any startups, which I think would be really relevant for either their programs or even their pre-accelerators. I'm also advisor to the Swiss Entrepreneur Program and the Serbia Chamber of Commerce. And I've learned over the past 2 years going through COVID, how important not just helping startups, but just traditional businesses transition to digital, particularly with things like LinkedIn events instead of trade shows, has been really important. So it's been very rewarding the past 2 years where as much as COVID's impacted businesses, I've had a chance to teach people new approaches that they wouldn't have necessarily thought about. Also, I've been advisor to multiple startups over the past, I would say about 5 years, although I've been working with startups for 10 years now, and it's starting to see the fruits of the labor. The past year or two, a lot of these teams have been raising a huge amount of investment. Now, obviously, most of that work is not linked to me. They've done an enormous amount of work, but I'm proud that when I worked with them at the early stage, I helped set up the foundations, the framework that I'm about to show you today. So any questions yet, please share in the Q&A and I'll be happy to share with you. And Taras, thank you for the kind words about the baby. So let's get going and dive straight into this. What I want to show you, apologies, we'll go there, is how to build this formula for growth. Now, I'm going to talk here about a B2B business, and I'm going to talk about roundabout 0 to 10K. However, getting from 0 to 50K, still apply this. For B2C, apply it slightly, but slightly different in terms of numbers and volume and maybe sales cycles and things like that. The other thing that I want to share with you is in terms of today, I could talk for 1 hour just on sales Theorem. I could talk for 10 hours just on LinkedIn lead generation. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail just here. What I'm trying to do is give you the structure for everything, but we'll also share my information in case you really want to talk more or you need more resources about specific areas. Instead of raising your hand, if you just want to share on the Q&A, that's much easier, and then I can answer the questions. So for the slides, I'm going to be sharing all of this as well, which is a Google Doc template that I recommend. Copy it to your own Google Sheet, edit it, and even if you want to send it to me to review, I'll be happy to. And this is what I want to start with first. So let's think about generally conversion. If you want to do anything, you need to be able to measure it. If any of you say to me, I really want to get into shape, 2022 is the year where I lose 10 kilos, then the first thing I would say is how many kilos do you need to lose in the year, in the month, in the week, and daily? And how are you going to be accountable to this, and how are you going to track it? And it's the same with anything else. If it's trying to lose weight, if it's trying to run a marathon, if it's trying to do anything, you need to have a plan and you need to stay focused and you need to have a goal. So I'll just double check a few people are asking questions. Yeah, everybody, it's all going to be recorded and it's all going to have slides and that sort of thing. In terms of methodology, this is not something I've created. This is something I apply to everybody. So it's a mix of all sorts of methodologies. So step one, in terms of conversion, can you just reverse engineer what you need to achieve? So what MRR do you want to get to the next 12 months? So I usually say 10K is a good goal for SaaS businesses, although you can chop that to 6 months if you do things right. What's the average value of a paying customer? In my example, it was 100 euros. And so very simply, you start with these 3 steps. Really, really simple here. MRR you want to get to next 12 months, average value of a paying customer, how many paying customers you need in the next 12 months. One thing that's really, really important here is don't focus on churn. Obviously, you need to counterbalance what you're going to take on with what you're going to lose. But for the example here so far, completely ignore churn for the moment. And I'll come back to that in a second of why. So very simply, figure out what your goals are in terms of MRR. Step 2. And again, this is not going to wow anybody like crazy. This is foundations. And one of the most important things is success is boring. If you start to get so excited with all of this, it means you're doing too many different things to keep you sort of excited. And one of the most difficult things as an entrepreneur is you constantly want to test new things. And it's the opposite. Success is about consistency, framework, structure, and finding a way to scale. That doesn't mean if you find something that's good, you don't push it like crazy, which I'm going to show you, but everything doesn't have to be new all the time. So in terms of your sales process, next step is, can you map this out? And I've showed you, it's a little bit blurred, but this is a sort of sales process on HubSpot Theorem, which I really like. But generally, what are your sales stages? And the reason being, I see so many startup pitches which say, we're going to get to 100K a month within 2 years. And then I say, so how many months do you need? They have no idea because they're thinking of the big picture all the time. And as a startup founder, one side of your brain is how to build a $1 billion euro company. The other side of your brain is how many leads do I need today? And you need to be able to mix very short term with very long term. One, to have the ambition and drive to grow the company, and one, to have the day-to-day hustle to say, are we on track? And when I say about setting goals, which I'm going to show you, these are goals are what you fail at. As in worst case, you hit these, best case, you double or triple them. So whenever I set my goals, I want them to be realistic to say, if I don't even hit this, I might as well not even bother. This is really realistic targets. So when you look at these stages, lead, pending demo, demo booked, pending decision, trial, and customer. These are the stages I use. And I think it's really important that I spend a little bit of time just to explain what I mean by this. So a lead is anybody who really gives any sort of indication that they're interested in your product. So this might be reply to LinkedIn, reply to email, register on your website. Somebody makes an introduction, you meet them at a trade show, whatever you can see to say this person knows about us, but isn't working with us yet, but they've showed interest, I add them as a lead. Then imagine you message somebody on LinkedIn and they reply, sounds interesting, tell me how you guys work. That's a lead. So I'll add it to a sales CRM. Then I'll message the person and say, actually, it would probably be best if we jump on a call. Are you free next week? And that's where I put in the stage pending demo. And the reason I have this stage is so many people just have either lead or demo booked. And the amount of people where you message to say, hey, are you free for a call? And they disappear. They cease to exist anymore. So pending demo is a really good stage to say, how do I find people in my sales pipeline that I'm chasing up but are not converting? And when I did this with a business, what I realized is they had a 30% conversion rate from pending demo to demo booked. Basically, that should have been about 80%. But what was happening is people replied on LinkedIn. They were a bit too slow to reply. They would then message them and say, hey, are you free for a call? People would disappear, and they took so long that either going from lead to demo booked was really low because the pending demo, they didn't actually get them booked. So it's a really good stage to have. Then the customer replies, you send a calendar invite, they book via Calendly, something like that. Then you go into demo booked. Then you have the demo and they think, give me a couple of days, I'll think about it, independent decision. Then depending on your business model, they say, do you know what, I want to give this a go. They sign up on trial. And then from a trial, they convert to a customer. Now, a lot of you might not have trial. You might have proof of concept. You might have send invoice. You might not even have a trial period. You might go pending decision to customer. But these are the stages that I use. And I think this is quite a good framework that I get everybody to set with if they're not too sure to get going. So step 2 is simply, once you've got your targets, just map out these different stages. Don't worry about conversion rate yet. I'll cover that in a second. But just map out, what do you think these stages are going to be? And for me, again, new lead, chase them to get on a call, calls booked. Are they interested in working with me? Do they want to have a trial? Can they become a paying customer? And yeah, I'm checking all the questions here as we go. Okay, I'll come back to that for the question in a second. Thank you. So I think once you've got the sales pipeline in terms of lead, demo, that sort of thing, the next thing is try and figure out the conversion rate. And this is difficult if you're going to go from brand new, but it really doesn't matter what you set as this numbers, because very, very quickly you're going to figure out, is this relevant or not? And the reason I mean by this is when you start to play with these numbers, if it's not realistic, you'll get a number that will say something like, you need 300 leads in a month. And you suddenly realize, well, it's impossible. I want 50 leads in a month. I need to figure this out a little bit. So this is what we do by forecast expected conversion rate. And it's fairly simple what you'll do. So these here is what I think you should be going for. Now, you might say these are really, really high, but it's what defines what you put in your system. So what I add to HubSpot is anybody who shows interest goes in a lead. I know anybody who almost adds lead is anybody they want a message, which is not right in my frame of mind. So to me, what I say is a lead is someone who showed interest. And for me, about 90% go from lead to pending demo. Some never even reply. From pending demo, they go very quickly to demo booked, because I get alerts as soon as someone messages. I make it easy on my website. I send them a Calendly link. I have my live chat on and my team can speak. So getting a demo booked, it should be fairly easy. From demo booked, very rarely I'll be on a call with somebody and they'll say, do you know what, this is really not for me. The reason being that when they book in a call on the Calendly sort of questions, I say, what do you need help with? Are you using any other LinkedIn softwares at the moment? Because they're going to sign up to my software. I think it was it, and what are your goals? And really, I only jump on the actual call if I know they're relevant anyway. So that validation works really well. Little percentage drop out, but most of them go through. In terms of pending decision, as I say, there's a fair bit that drop out, but not too many. So 70% go from pending decision to trial. And if I'm offering a 7-day free trial, you want that conversion to be pretty high. If you don't offer a trial, that will probably drop. And then from trial, we see about 80% convert. Now, there are lots of things you can do of how do you get a high conversion of trial. For us, it's very simple. We don't let anybody trial the software unless we onboard them and train them. So we're a closed software. Another example of this might be superhuman.com. Not anybody can join, but if you do join, the support is incredible. And that's the model that we like to stick to. If you don't have that and anybody can sign up, your trial numbers might drop till 40, 50%. And so you need more volume coming in, but less is converting. So those are the general numbers I use, and play around with these numbers. Or if you've already got a bit of traction, try and see what the numbers are looking like. So if you're applying this more to get to 20 to 30K, look at what the numbers were for the first 10K to try and apply. This is the general idea. Good. So when we're thinking about this target audience and when we're thinking about the conversion rate, the next step, what I want to say is, can you reverse engineer from your end goal with your paying customers to say, what percentage of trials will become customers? What percentage of pending decision will lead to having a trial, and so forth? So what I mean by this is, if you put the numbers in here and you say, we need 100 paying customers, because 100 paying customers is what you figured out here, then all you need to do is say, if I know I want an 80% conversion, then the formula is just this. So 100 times 100 divided by 80%, 70%, 95%, whatever, and just drag it across. And the importance of this is to start with, this is not a perfect formula, but you're just moving the goals left to right to just say, does this look realistic? So if we need 100 paying customers, we need 125 trials, 179 pending, 188 so forth, and 261 leads. And then from here, just simply divide it by 12 to start with, and I'll come back with why you change that in a second. But just divide this by 12 and say, does this look realistic? So I'll just check the questions very quickly. So then Taris, you were saying, do you have to try to push a demo? Could you try convince smaller customers to sign up for a free trial without the demo? So it's a very good question. And generally it's, should you always offer a demo or not? I think it's really important about what you charge as a fee. However, it's a funny one. I was on LinkedIn Sales Navigator recently. They've got 750 million people, Sales Navigators, 80 euros a month roughly, and you can book a demo one-on-one to learn more about it. So there's a few ideas. I know a lot of companies say book a demo and they do one demo per day in bulk. So you could say, yes, a private demo for you, click, and then you join a little bit like today, a webinar, but not 150 people, might be 5 people. However, I would say, if you can, always focus on the front of the funnel, as in doing a demo, doing onboarding, because they're much more likely to understand your software, stay with it, and recommend other people. And if you're an early stage startup, one of the big difficulties that you have is trying to get somebody to work with you, and your software is not so good, your knowledge base is not so good, the product isn't so good. So the thing that is so good is you can say, we're the best in the world at our support, how we onboard you, how we set yourself up. There's a thing called maybe MVP concierge, where basically your onboarding is way over the top of what it will be to scale, but it's enough to get that critical mass. That's those customers start recommending other people, that sort of thing. I think Justus, just quickly, you were saying you get a lot of leads stuck on the stage, thinking about it after the demo, what could be the issue? A lot of different things, and I'm going to come back to that towards the end of the talk. So reminding me about that. And then one other person said, if you start a conversation with a potential customer, how do you write that down in HubSpot? Any other way to do it? What's the name of the stage in HubSpot before lead? So it's a good one. I think the talk today is not to talk about my own software, which could do separate, but basically you use an automation software out there or whatever you're using. So if you're using email marketing tool, you might use Lemlist or Reply or something. Basically your data is in there. If you're using LinkedIn, you might be using Prospect Labs, and your data is in there. So the sales softwares you use are basically your pre-CRM. And then once somebody replies and shows interest, they then go into becoming a lead, and this is your main CRM. And all those systems should integrate. So with Prospect Labs, for example, somebody replies, you can then push them straight to become a lead on HubSpot, that sort of thing. Good. So if we have these goals, and I'll just keep this on track, so when you come back and watch the slides, you can see this more. You fill in these sort of numbers and you look at it, and you map out your targets for the next 12 months. And this is these ones here. And this is where you're just trying to say, does this look realistic? So me as a B2B business, can I get 22 leads to hit my targets? Now, I think I could get 22 leads individually, never mind if I've got a team of 3 or 4 working combined to get to 22. So this is how you get to 10K revenue, by being really shit, not by being viral, exceptional, whatever. This is steady, slow formula. In all honesty, though, with all startups, you get something like something viral, TechCrunch or Hacker News or something like that, and suddenly you get 5,000 in a month, and that's the excitement of this. So this should be your failure level. If we do nothing but what we need to, we'll hit this. But really, this is why we achieve this in 6 months, not these year targets, because they are fairly slow. But this is what you need to do to say, fill this out and start with the yearly goals and the monthly goals. Good. Next step, don't forget the weather. Don't forget the seasonal changes. So I've just started working with an accelerator program in Vietnam, and I had to culturally learn, well, what difficulties do they have? And they said, oh, well, it's fine. They work hard November, December, January, but February, they're off for most of the month. I was like, what? They're off for a month? Like, how are they going to get selling? So you need to make sure that there's a few things you map out here. One is, when are the months that are going to be harder to sell? Now, if a lot of your businesses are linked to any seasonal products, then you need to put that in. Logistics businesses, for example, e-commerce businesses, for example, this will be slightly different. So try and look at the months that are going to be slow and the months that are going to be a bit quicker. And really, the other thing is, try and knock it down to December. So the moment, these are all consistent. But what you should be doing is, I'm not going to get 20 leads in December, usually half the number in December. And this is for 2 reasons. One is, past really 10th to 15th of December, people do not want to be sold to. They don't have a budget. They're going to be really good mood and polite to you and say, yes, let's keep in touch, and not buy from you. It's all the worst things you can experience. So try and cut things and say, if you have half the month of December, can you half these numbers spread out for the rest of the month, or the rest of the year, sorry. And this is where it helps, because if you say, instead of 20, I'm going to have 10, just add 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, and 24 leads a month is now easy. But if you suddenly say this is going to be consistent, and then suddenly you only get 10 leads, you suddenly panic and don't realize what the plan is for the year. So having these goals makes you feel in control, that if something goes wrong for the month, you just readjust the following month. And the reason this is so powerful is 2 years ago, 2 years in March, I sort of saw the news about COVID happening, and I rang a good friend of mine, an investor in Estonia, and I said, "What's your advice?" And he just said, "Scale down, shut down. You're going to go in for a bad run here." But he did say, make your goals for the next 3 to 5 years and try and look at this COVID period as a blip, not ruin your business. And that's what I did. And he instantly turned my mindset from, shit, like, how am I going to survive as a business, to, if I look at a chart, it's going to go up, down a bit, and then up again. And over the past couple of years, you wouldn't even know what happened in COVID times. So it's really important that goals, and not long-term, but 12-month goals, give you a vision of, if something doesn't happen, how are you going to hit your target for the year, and recap. So try here to adjust to things like taking time off in December and maybe in summer. The other thing is December 20th to January the 5th or January the 3rd is my personal time where I mentally refresh. I look at health, I read books, I spend time with family, I recharge. And the reason being that everybody else in the world, apart from different religions, are generally doing the same thing. So if you take a holiday in summer, you're still going to get 100 messages a day from customers, from staff, from anybody, because they don't really care you're on holiday. December is the time as a startup founder to mentally refresh and really go for it. Even if you're working, but just more planning and setting goals, that's great. But don't give yourself huge targets in December. Final thing about this is, if you hire a salesperson, you instantly say to the salesperson, get going. I expect you to get 22 leads and make 9 sales. Now, obviously, those 9 sales won't be from those leads. Those sales here might be from here. So it has a certain amount of time for sales cycle. But having a structure makes your life so much easier to discipline cheeky salespeople who try and say it's too tough, it's too difficult. And you can say, no, it's not. This is the formula. This is the goals. We're going to make it work. Good. So if we get to this sort of general idea about how it all impacts, then look at the next one. Can we focus on acquisition? Do you actually know where the leads are going to come from? I'll just very quickly check if there are any questions here. Yeah, so Calvin, you're saying, based on what I've just said, should we use different tools to prospect a lead from a sales CRM? We've uploaded contacts we think are leads or what we want to contact to fresh sales and then contact them. Is this wrong? Okay, really good question, Calvin. It's definitely not wrong because there's no right or wrong way. What I would say is it time efficient? Is it effective and efficient? And I would say no. The reason being, basically what you're doing at the moment, Calvin, is you're adding a database to your sales CRM, but that database already exists on LinkedIn or all other tools you might use. So what you should be using is a prospecting tool, in my own case, Prospect Labs, where you upload all of your database from there. And then from there, you're sending LinkedIn messages, email messages, interacting with people. And when somebody replies, then you add it to your sales CRM. One question a lot of people have about this is, if I'm using an external tool, is there any way that if my salesperson leaves, they keep the data? In any good tool, you should be able to integrate if you want, or you can just export all the data. You can export that LinkedIn network, all the emails I've sent, whatever it is. But the general flow, I think, should be lead generation, prospecting, somebody replies interested, add them as a lead. And there are a lot of good tools that you can use out there. For example, Linked Hub is a really good one, where you just click on it and it syncs your LinkedIn lead to HubSpot and creates the deal automatic. So yeah, I don't think you're wrong, Calvin. I just think the speed at which you're doing that is basically replicating a target audience that you haven't even spoke to yet. So your sales CRM should be anybody goes in there that has shown interest. It's not just a cold database. Good. Okay, so focus on acquisition. So once we know the conversion goals and we're all agreed, and I've hired all of you on this call and I've said, I've got 146 salespeople. You all need to hit 22 leads per month. Your next question back to me then is how? And this is what I want to show you today. So where do you get these leads from? Now, there's 2 ways of looking at this, and I'm a big fan of this, and it's growth stacking or growth hacking. So let me share with you what I think the difference is. So growth hacking is trying a bit of everything very quickly, and failing is great because you've learned what works and what doesn't work. To me, failing at anything sucks. If I walk on a football pitch and I'm playing with my brothers, I'm going to kick hell out of them because I want to win. If I go in a startup and I'm doing sales, I'm going to work like crazy to hit my targets. Failing should hurt. Failing isn't cool. Now, failing quickly to say, I'm tested this and it didn't work. I don't know, because is the variable that you're testing just throwing money at something, or you're actually doing it methodically, you're getting somebody to train you on it, you're reading blogs, you're testing it, and you're saying, this channel didn't work because for whatever reason. But too many times with growth hacking, the variable is simply your technique sucked. So you say, I tested LinkedIn, I tested email, I tested cold calling, it wasn't for me. You bring in an expert that comes and does all this and said, what are you talking about? Of course it works. So growth hacking is when you're testing everything. Growth stacking is when you're saying, do you know what? I've found one channel or even one approach that I think really helps. I'm going to become really good at it. I'm going to read about it. I'm going to get some help building it, and I'm going to implement it in my business. And then I'm going to add another, and then I'm going to add another. Now, this could be one stack every 2 weeks or something like this. But what I don't recommend is, I hate working with a startup, setting the goals, and they say, we've got 8 different channels and got 6 different people running them. Everybody's just busy, but nobody's actually getting any results. So to me, this is what I recommend. So growth stacking is the following. So if we have a look at here, once you know you need, say, 22 leads a month, this one here, growth stacking, pick 3 channels that you know are going to be your core and start with one, and then the next, and then the next. The reason I say 3 is, in a perfect world, you could have months and months and months to go one by one. But the truth is, in any B2B business, you should be an expert at LinkedIn, you should be an expert in email, and you should be an expert at getting referrals. Without those, why are you in the B2B space? So these are the 3 core that, like, when you switch on and say, I'm going to run a startup, B2B startup, sorry, you need to know how to do these well. So these are the core 3 that I think, and I say accelerated programs, but really I mean referrals, partnerships, that sort of thing. And the general idea is, can your numbers for leads per month be split between these 3? And try and set that out, and try and say things that you're in control of should be 80, 90%. So you're in control of outbound. Things you're not in control of, referrals, are great when they come in, but you're not relying on them completely. Yeah, okay, I'll come back to that. So Eustace, thanks. So Eustace just mentioned Source Whale, which I don't know about, but if you want to have a look at that, please have a look at it. And Irma, for your question on that, yes, I will come back in a second if I can. Although, can you please explain what you mean more by C2C? I've never even heard of that. So I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to bullshit. I have no idea what C2C is. I know B2B, B2C, human to human, but I don't know what C2C is. So if you answer another question, just explain that, please. So if you have a look at this, how do you break this down? And when I launched Prospect Labs, this is simply what we did. LinkedIn, email, referrals, that's all. And we try to set that sort of foundation. And this is what we have here. So we have our 3 core channels. In the past year, I've been driving deep as I can into everything about LinkedIn, everything about email, and now I'm just touching on SEO. However, there's also the growth hack. And the growth hack is that one thing where I think you should say, I'm just going to have fun with this. And the reason for this is I want you to be creative, because the creative things are what really gets people happy. So for example, I was watching on, I think it was a TikTok video today, and there's a lady who was really sort of redesigning people's logos, laughing about it, and pretending to be a great graphic designer, but actually her character was actually really sucked. And she's an animator, nothing to do with graphic design, but she just had a bit of fun with something, and it was so funny that it's gone viral. It's been on Ellen, it's been on everywhere, and it's gone huge. But she didn't do that to be viral. She did that to have a bit of fun. And often the biggest hacks are not the ones where you see, we need 100 sales, how are we going to do it? It's the ones where you give less shits. You say, do you know what? Wouldn't it be really cool if we don't do a Black Friday offer, but we wait a week and then do another offer to say, now that you're not bombarded with Black Friday, here's our Black Friday deal or something. Like, how are you going to be different just to have a bit of fun and test the waters? And that's what I mean by the growth hack. So a growth hack can be things like ads, where it's just running by itself and it's testing, but try and be open to look at something new where you think, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to try and push this, and I'm going to try and find a way that I really can test new channels that might be a bit of fun. And what I usually say is, this doesn't happen when you scale more, but if you're going for the first 0 to 10K, what you generally find that the growth hack, the ones that come in, balance the churn. Now, it's very sort of general to say this, but it's definitely what I found in my own business. So I did for growth hack, I said, why don't I try a LinkedIn event? Basically what we're on now. And the first LinkedIn event, I had nearly 3,000 people register. And from that, our monthly revenue boosted by 3,500. So this was something that massively outweighed churn for months of what happened. So I don't think this balances monthly, but over the year, what you bring in is these external creative things that you try on top of your core things where you hustle and churn away are the ones that bring in sort of extra results. And I can see here lots of anonymous people. I think this is all the Startup Wise Guys team suddenly checking this and realizing, actually, I should listen to this or have a look at it. So this is generally what I mean by the growth stack is the B2B core, LinkedIn, email, could be cold calling, referrals, that sort of thing. And then the hack is one thing that's way more creative, because a lot of you might not be born as salespeople. You might not feel like you even enjoy it. So all this hustling, LinkedIn and email, you might want to engineer something, a really cool landing page, a really cool pop-up message, a podcast, a blog, whatever, but try to do something that's really fun, that creatively changes, and actually you'll find it really helps you. Good. Okay, so please keep the questions coming in. Okay, Irma, B2C. Thank God. Good. So yes, I will give some B2C examples in about 5 minutes, and I'm going to show you this in a second. This is really helpful. There's a book by Gabriel Weinberg called Traction, and it was about 5 years ago I read this. And what I learned so much about this is he was saying, very similar to what I'm saying by the sort of growth stacking, out of all of these channels that you can choose, find a few that you're going to test over a period of months, and find 3 that are your bullseye and what he calls the core. And whatever your business does, you know we are running these 3 every month regardless. I do 20 LinkedIn connections per day. I send 30 emails and I call 50 people again and again and again. But I might try LinkedIn ads. I might try a trade show. I might try SEO. I might try other things. And this is the idea. So I just wanted to show you that, but this isn't my resources. It's from a book called Traction. And I think there's a lot of things you can consider here. TV, offline ads, SEO, engineering is marketing, which is a lot of mortgage companies do this, where they have on the website, put in your information, and will give you a price of how much you can be offered or that sort of thing. But have a look at all these different ideas and think, what are the 3 core that we build our foundations on? But as a B2B, I think it's LinkedIn and email. I think as a B2C, I'm going to show you a few more about community in a second. So I hope that helps. And so when you're on here, when you're on here and you have these goals here, we're then at the sort of final one to say, how can you start to build all your KPIs? And your KPIs are generally acquisition, how you're getting new trials coming in, conversion, how are those trials going to paying customers, then retention, how are you keeping customers, and then unfortunately offboarding, how are you losing customers? So a lot of this data, what I start to do is plug it in based on my monthly targets and what I want to achieve. And at first, it's a lot of sort of moving numbers about to say, would this work? And would I be on target for all the different moving parts? Now, it's very tricky today to say exactly what you should fill in because there's so many moving areas, which is why it's a little bit general now. But if you want to clone that and actually email me or message and say, how would I adapt this to your business? Then it would make more sense. Because there's certain things. If you are brand new and you don't have any data, it's very hard sometimes to figure out where you should be. So in a second, I'm going to show you Profit Well and how this can help you benchmark against other customers or other companies. So what I usually recommend is start filling these out. And the general idea you should start to see is, does this look realistic? Is this exciting enough? Is this something where I can try out and say, yes, I'm going to go for that? Now, I've kept this consistent because I'm not really a VC-backed startup, where a startup that integrates with LinkedIn, there's a lot of to's and fro's about that, but we're not a company that's looking to raise investment and grow like crazy. It's more of a, not a lifestyle business, but a more steady growth business. A lot of you might have much more ambitious goals here, and you need to start plotting this out and see what it's like. But any startup that I work with, that I advise, we have to fill this out, and I need to see, can we achieve this? And can we set these goals as failure, that we only hit this? Otherwise, I don't know what's going on. Good. So I'll just see in the questions there. Yes, of course, anything I'm sharing here, the spreadsheet, the slides, the video, this is all to help you. My passion is training startups. And really, a lot of you on this call could be, or webinar, sorry, could be the next biggest business that could scale, but you just don't know how to get going. And that's my passion, to help people. Final bit here in terms of, before I go through a few lead generation channels, is offboarding. And people don't really know what offboarding is. They talk about onboarding, but when somebody leaves their company, they just say, oh, good luck. Any person that cancels your software, you should have an alert that goes to Stripe, and you should discuss it with your team. Why did they cancel? So we've got nearly 200 customers. One person's account cancels. I expect my team to, within a couple of minutes, have said, this is what's happening, this is what I'm doing, this is why they canceled. And if it's not, I get really pissed. Now, if this was 1,000 people, 10,000, I'm really sure where the level is where I'm going to lose that attention to detail, because I don't ever want somebody to leave. And if they do, I need to know why and what could be done to fix it. So you need to be looking at offboarding. How many people do you think are going to churn, and what are you going to do about it? I have another slides and talk I can share at another time about all the emails you can send, all the retargeting. But just for the purpose of today, you need to bear in mind, expect people to churn and try and have a figure about that. And once you have this number of what you think people are going to churn, you can go back to here and start to update this. So say, for example, I think we're going to churn about 5 customers per month. Then I need to go into here and then say that number isn't 9, it's going to be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I'll update this to say I need 15 paying customers per month. And then all of this sort of changes to say, well, actually, all my goals, all my leads, everything needs to be added a little bit. The other side to look at this is simply to say, don't change anything. For every 5 that you're going to lose, you actually see these targets because you're going to push a little bit harder, you're going to make it work. So the way we scaled is we didn't worry too much about churn, because you're not so much control of churn in the early stage. You're really trying to stop people, but you can't worry too much because there's loads of reasons. Poor product, bit buggy, lack of trust, wrong timing, too expensive. There's all sorts of things that might go wrong. But if you focus on acquisition to always be healthy, it puts you in a good space. Again, there's a lot of moving parts. So I'm trying to give this as a formula, but again, please reach out to me and I'm happy to make this more specific for yourself. Okay, moving to the more software side. I think somebody once called me the Wikipedia of software, which is a really good compliment. And the reason why is every startup I work with, they'll have the most niche question. How do I do this for this, for this? And I always say, here's the software, here's the pricing, here's a discount code or something. So these are all very popular softwares, but I just want to show you this one first, ProfitWell. Now, this is a live demo. This is not my data. So unfortunately, we didn't get to 1 million revenue yet, but this is ProfitWell data. So this integrates with any of your payment platforms or with an API, but simply I would say use Stripe starter perks, and then integrate with ProfitWell. It's free to use, and you only get charged if you want to use the really fancy features, which you just don't need. But what this can do is not only does it analyze all your data, but it'll start to give all these data here in terms of trial overview and saying who's converting, what's the conversion rate. It'll say churn overview and what's going wrong, why people are canceling, do they voluntarily cancel, did they cancel because their payment failed, that sort of thing. And it's amazing. And again, it's very hard to work with a company that has a SaaS business that isn't using this tool because you're not looking at the data. So when we're looking at the tools, I would say ProfitWell is incredible for understanding all the different metrics of how it can work. The other thing, though, is they have this one, benchmarks. And I love this idea. I think any of you that have a B2B SaaS business, build benchmarks in your company. So I've got a LinkedIn software. So it would be awesome if I give a benchmark to say, on average, somebody in your industry, in your job title, gets this sort of connection rate. We don't have that yet, but that would be really cool. And ProfitWell does do this. So they say, how do people's metrics, if you're B2B SaaS, compare? And if this was your data, it would show you, are you growing in line with everybody else? What's your churn rate like with everybody else? What's your retention like with everybody else? And it's a really clever feature just to help educate you on how do you compare. And the same with industry. how does B2B SaaS compare to B2C, and what's the growth rate and this sort of thing. So I would say ProfitWell is one of my favorite tools, not just to analyze your own data, but to educate you on how to become better at the space. And I learned a lot from their demos, a lot from the blogs, of just understanding my own metrics and what it all means, because you go into the startup journey not to be able to be an expert at talking with VCs in finance, but to build something really cool and sell it to a lot of people and enjoy the journey on the way. However, you need to be able to talk the talk. You need to know exactly your churn, your revenue, your delinquent churn, your, I don't know, ratio of how quick you're growing. There's a lot of different things that ProfitWell gives you a breakdown of it and gives you a description of what it even means. So an example might be, here we go. It'll say all of your different revenue here, and then it'll say a different breakdown of what's going on and so how to understand it. So love this software, free to use and integrates with Stripe. So that's one I would say that whilst you're setting your goals, use this one. Databox, I'm not going to do too much now. However, I do this for every company I work with. Databox is a real-time analytics dashboard. So if you imagine ProfitWell is for your finances, Databox is for everything, and even ProfitWell integrates with Databox. So Databox is your snapshot to say what's the health of the business. And the reason I use it predominantly over other features is the one with goals. If I can, here we go. So if we set our goals and we say, I need to get here 22 leads per month, what tends to happen here is in Databox, you can add it to say, I need 22 leads per month. And then every time you check on desktop or your phone, it'll say, how are you doing today? Not this week or this month, but today. And if it's red, you're below the target. If it's green, it's above. So I try and turn sales into a game where we have all our goals, it's all broken down. And if you really build this up of your marketing goals, sales goals, financial goals, website traffic, newsletter goals, whatever it is, then the game is never drop into the red. And so as a salesperson, you say, well, I don't need 20 leads. If I get 30, then I'm always above it. I'm always giving myself a chance. So this is a really cool software for any businesses, but particularly startups, to have a visual dashboard that you can see real time what's going on. And the other cool thing about this that I really, really love is I've worked with a lot of investors, and I showed them, here's one of the teams I'm working with, here's their dashboard, and they sort of jaw dropped and said, I need this for everybody straight away. So they can have real-time reporting of how you're doing, how they can help you, how they can introduce other people, and it just visually looked great. So any startup I work with, any accelerator I work with, I try and build this for them because it visually gets you thinking all the time about the data. Good. Databox in terms of pricing, I think it's about $50 a month, but ProfitWell's free. Final one, HubSpot CRM. I'm not going to show you how to use it or whatever it is, but it's free to use as a CRM. It's my favorite one in terms of integrations, but I am going to show you one thing, and it's this one here called Linked Hub. Linked Hub is a tool, not linked to me at all, but Linked Hub is a tool that integrates with HubSpot. So if you have a lead on LinkedIn that you think is, you want to add to HubSpot, you just click sync, and it pulls them into HubSpot, creates a deal, and it syncs all the messages as well. And this is something like $10, $20 a month or something like that. So trying to not add all your data to HubSpot straight away, but keep it in LinkedIn or something like Prospect Labs. And then if it's a lead, you use Linked Hub, click, and it syncs. Okay, so getting towards the end of the call, I want to transition now into your software stack, because if we're talking about goals, if we're talking about analytics, it's great, but how do you get going? How do you get sales? So before we go into general lead generation channels, I would expect all of you to be an expert at Zapier and Phantom Buster if you're going to scale in the way you want to scale. So Zapier is very simply the software that links two things together. So for example, software that links Calendly to HubSpot, something like that. So it's the building blocks to put everything together. And I think Zapier's got over 2,500 apps and millions of potential collaborations or integrations. And so when you're thinking of how does your startup scale up, you need to be making sure that you're building systems that are scaling with you. So just because you don't have too much revenue doesn't mean you're not ready to inherit all this revenue of customers built on the systems. So some simple integrations might be Calendly booked in, Slack alert, so you know. So I know every time somebody books a call, Calendly alert when a payment fails. Slack alert when a payment fails from Stripe. It could be contract signed from, I don't know, Quilla or PandaDoc or something, Slack alert. So there's a lot of different examples, but knowing how to use Zapier means every time you keep growing, you can instantly say, well, I'm going to integrate this to make sure the data is synced or whatever it may be. Yeah, I'll just check the questions just very quickly. So Eustace, you're saying I'm using Pipedrive as main CRM. Definitely not missing out. With the investment Pipedrive had, they're building a lot of cool features. One is the chatbot feature, which is very, very good. But I think the problem with Pipedrive is just visually, I don't like it as much as HubSpot. The only one thing of Pipedrive that's sort of quite cool is they have a separate section all for your leads. That's a bit different to how you convert them, then they go in the deal pipeline. But Eustace, when you say it's not a difference between HubSpot and Pipedrive, it's a difference between sales CRM and spreadsheet, or spreadsheet and in your head, or in your head to just nothing. So as long as you're using a sales CRM, you're completely on the right track. If you are using Pipedrive instead, I would recommend using Link Match, though, this one here. And Link Match is very similar to Linked Hub, but it just works for Pipedrive. And this syncs anybody that is a lead, you click sync and it goes to Pipedrive. So it's just about making it quicker. Few of the questions that you just asked in there, will this work if my product entry price is £20 per user per month? 100%. It's not too much about price yet. It's simply by traction. So you're hustling at the moment to say, how do I get my first 20 customers, 50 customers, 100 customers? And what you do now in the first 3 to 6 months is not what you're doing in year 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. Because if you don't do this in the first 6 months, you're not going to get to year 1 and 2. And so don't feel like there's this romance to say from day one, I'm automating everything. Because if you speak to somebody, they're going to convert better, then do it. And it's only at the time where the numbers start to build that you step back a bit and add more automation to interact with them. But don't lose the most powerful sales tool in the world, which is your voice, your brain, your body language, all these things to make somebody love your product. Because every sale is not one sale. Every sale to that customer should be them then referring somebody else, telling all their friends, telling the network. So the power of that sale is educating them always to say, join the revolution. It's too cheesy. Join this sort of energy to say, we're building something great, and bring everybody you know to be part of this. Somebody was just asking about Intercom at the moment. Unfortunately, I'm not going to cover this just at the moment because Intercom really is a tool for once somebody signs up as a customer, which is more towards the account management side of it. So I do have a lot of other slides, and please email me and I'll share that with you. But I want to get you all to the point of how can you generate a lot of business and hit your targets to start with. And so Zapier Phantom Buster is the next one I want to show you. So Zapier is the tool that links two together. Phantom Buster, and they've also got a good sort of Cyber Monday deal at the moment, is the software that can scrape anything. So if you said to me, I've got a load of people in a Facebook group, how do I find the data? You'd scrape them here. If you said, I've got loads of people in a LinkedIn group, how do I scrape them? And I would say this one here, LinkedIn members. If you said, I've got loads of restaurants that are listed on Google, how do I scrape them? And I would say Google Maps. If you say, you get the point. If you say, there's so many people that interact with blogs on Medium, I wish I could interact with them because they're my target audience. There you go. So there are so many different ways that this tool will let you find your target audience. And you have to do two things. You can't always just scrape and message them, because what you're going to do with just lots of, I don't know, people who like a YouTube video, you need to find their LinkedIn profile, their email address, phone number, something like that. But these are all really great automations, very, very cheap, or if not free. So I mean, $0 to $30 a month to do a lot of this. And this should be the starting point for you to say, you should be an expert. Your growth stack should be, I can find anybody's data within about an hour through different things. So I look at this a little bit like a chef, and you say to me, I'm going to cook a really good meal. And I say, what ingredients do you need? And here's where you find all the ingredients. You find all your target audience that you say, if they're part of a Facebook group, LinkedIn group, if they go to a trade show, if they're on Crunchbase, wherever they are, knowing how to use Phantom Buster and find your target audience instantly makes you aware of how to get going with the next stage. The next stage is the lead generation. So we're getting towards the end of the talk. I don't want to take too much time, but I want to wrap this up to say the next things. And it's basically this: maximum output, minimum input. What can you all be doing that you're focusing most of your time on developing the product, maybe raising a bit of investment, but you're getting a lot of leads every month, and you have to do a community. So if any of you were to say, I don't even have a product yet, no problem, build a community, start getting to know people just to get their feedback, start training people, raising your brand, educating people, that sort of thing. So the two I recommend are Facebook groups and LinkedIn events. These should be the first two that you should, everybody on this call that's a startup should be doing these on a monthly basis as a LinkedIn event and should have a Facebook group. So Facebook group, the reason it's so powerful is that if you make a closed Facebook group that's SEO friendly on Facebook, so I call mine Growth Hacking for Startups, not Prospect Labs, Patrick Collins. And when everybody searches for growth hacking, startup lead generation, a lot of time my Facebook group will pop up. And what I say to them is, how do you hear about this group? Really important. Is my marketing working, or is Facebook organically pushing it? Secondly, what part of lead generation or growth hacking do you need help on? Because then I can support them, I can make content. It's generally I can learn more. And third, what is your email address? So this is a really good lead generation channel, because every time somebody joins, I get their email, and then they can go into a series of automated messages, my newsletter, that sort of thing. One thing to bear in mind about this though is Facebook groups are not for data capture, they're for validation. So a Facebook sort of questions will simply ask the questions. When you approve somebody, they're wiped. So the hack behind this that you need to do is this software called Group Leads. And Group Leads looks like this. It's not the greatest of sites, but groupleads.net. And the way this works is this integrates your Facebook group with your something like your email, MailChimp, your newsletter, whatever it is, or just adds them all to a spreadsheet. So I could wake up tomorrow and 10 people have tried to join my Facebook group. They've been auto-approved if they give the email. The email goes to MailChimp, and the MailChimp sends them an onboarding email to say, thanks for joining the group, would love to meet you, or something like that. So this is automation running for you. And because you're building a group, there's no pressure to do post every day, every week, because it's a community. It's not your brand saying we're offering something. So we've grown about 2,500 people in the group. We don't do anything on it to get them. We just let it grow. We talk about it a bit like today, but that's all. But then all these people that join have to give the email address and gradually start to join our newsletters. We do events, we invite them, these sorts of things. So I would say build a Facebook group, keep it closed, but you either use something like groupleads.net, or manually, if you want to keep the costs down, anybody who registers to join, copy the name and email and put it on a spreadsheet, because as soon as you approve, it's wiped and you can never get it. So Facebook groups, incredibly important. The next one, LinkedIn events. So this was the event that we're all on now. That's, I don't know, 500-600 registered, about 150 here live, and a lot will just get a recording. A LinkedIn event is by far my go-to strategy every single month, and a few reasons. Number one, you can get, if you do this right, between 500 to 1,000 people every month to your events. So it's a one-to-many approach and scale. If I had to do 132 30-minute one-on-ones with you, I would be exhausted. But just doing this event, you can all get to know me. Not everybody will want to work with me, but one or two might say, do you know what, Pat, let's work together. And so it's an amazing way for you to educate people, train people, that sort of thing. I'll share a lot of videos, different guides on LinkedIn events. So if you check my website, prospectlabs.co, we do a lot of training on this. But I think a LinkedIn event where you just put yourself out there and say, I'm going to educate people. And if you try and do it this way, I would say every month you should be doing some sort of topic. Not how does Prospect Labs help you with LinkedIn, but how to generate more leads, how to do different things, and educate people. And even on this was a one I did for Adapt, one of the Startwise guys startups, and we helped them market this. And they got 1,800 people registered. That's 1,800 emails, 1,800 LinkedIn profiles. And they were getting demos booked to the software before the event even take place, because just the event advertising alone raised awareness of what they're doing. So please try and commit to events. And if you say, I'm not a good public speaker, how are you going to pitch? How are you going to raise investment? How are you going to motivate staff to join? Become a good public speaker. I don't know anything to talk about. Well, why are you building a product if it's boring? Build something that people want to know about and educate them. And secondly, I don't have time. I've been advertising this event for 30 days, but I've been preparing the slides for about 4 or 5. So you definitely have time, because instead of doing all sorts of demos, one event a month in scale can really, really work. And I really implore you to give this a go. In terms of checking the questions, just quickly, let's see. So I think somebody was just asking here, how do you deal with the fact that automated lead enrichment is not GDPR compliant and even forbidding if consent is missing, example in Germany? So for example, if you think about events, people have to give their consent to give their email address. So when you register for an event, it'll pop up and say your terms and conditions. By using this, they accept to join your newsletter, that sort of thing, and you can use their email. Same way with a Facebook group, you have to put in your writing, this is how your email will be used. So none of these approaches are trick people. You don't want to trick somebody because they're not going to trick into signing up. You're saying to them, please join our Facebook group and can we have your email to keep in touch with deals, offers about us. Please join our event and we'll use your email to keep in touch to update you with things that are happening. So it's making sure that it's best practice. But yeah, you're not scraping anybody, you're not doing cold emails, although you could do some of the things like that. You're trying to do things here that raise awareness and they come to you. Alex, you were just saying, how do I keep a software Wikipedia updated? How do I find new products and understand they're worth working with? I think generally, just to answer that very, very quickly, is this one here, beta list. I check beta list every morning and I check Hacker News basically every morning. But I do this not to keep learning, it's just fun. I look at every single one and I sort of think, is there something I would try here? Can I test this out? Can I give it a go? But I think just being inquisitive of constantly learning and being interested. But I do one thing, if I do learn a new software that I like, I go hardcore and learn everything about it and then start telling everybody else about it. Okay, final things I want to cover here. LinkedIn. A lot of you B2B will say, let's do LinkedIn, let's go hard. And LinkedIn have introduced this weekly limit, not to everybody, to anybody who's been running really spammy campaigns. So if your LinkedIn connection rate, so the amount of people that connect with you is about 30%, you'll be flagged and you can only send 100 per week. If it's about 60 to 70%, you'll never receive this flag. So I want you to have a look at this approach that I call the bound framework, and I'll cover this very quickly. This is what I apply to people on a monthly basis that are sort of done for you clients, as in we run this all for them and I've done it for my own business. And it's basically cut into two. On one side is a monthly LinkedIn event. So I invite all my network, I message relevant network, and I message a lot of relevant groups and just say, I've got a LinkedIn event, invite you here. Anybody who registers for the LinkedIn event, I connect with them and introduce myself. And then following up, I'll send a recording to all of you and say, here's some of my services. If you want to work with me, let me know. That sort of idea. Then I run separate campaigns. Anybody who follows my company, I run automation to message them. Anybody who likes my posts, I run automation to message them. And I also upload sort of a list of people monthly to connect with as well. So I really balance this out. But if either of you are thinking of your activity on LinkedIn at the moment, I would say for the 1 to 2 campaigns you're running in tandem, I'm probably running 10. So this talk alone on this slide, I do for about 2 hours. So it's not for today, but what I wanted to show you is this is my whole strategy of how I use LinkedIn. And if you do think that LinkedIn is a channel where you can really push, please just email me and I'll jump on a call. I'll point you in the right direction. Final thing is, a little bit about Prospect Labs. We do sort of a done for you service. Now, a lot of you probably won't be relevant as an early stage startup, but if any of you say, actually, yeah, if you can help us, we set up the campaigns, the messages, the searches, we create events, we create newsletters. This might be a good way for you to get that initial momentum. And then after that, you say, okay, we'll take it on ourselves. But I think the most important thing, and I want to finish this with this here, is always be data driven. So this is our data here. First month went from 2, 4, under 6, under 8, 10 within about 6 months, went to about 14, and then we're very close to 20 now. Nothing of this is exceptional. Nothing of this is viral. It's not going to get on the front page news, anything. This is consistent scale. And I remember my friend who worked at Base Theorem that got acquired by Zendesk. He was the first non-technical hire, worked there 8 years. and then it sold for 150 million. And I said to him, was your process, was it a story of just amazing viral content, this startup like unicorn journey? And he said, fortunately not. We churned and we hustled every day for 8 years, and then we sold the business. And he just said that was it. Every month hitting targets. So as much as you want this sort of romance of you're going to get the viral front page, TechCrunch and all this, and you're suddenly going to get thousands, don't rely on it. Rely on saying, I'll get 20 leads a month. I'll do 1 LinkedIn event a month. I'll do 9 sales a month, whatever it might be. And you stick at it, and you stick at it every month. Final things I want to say, and thank you so much for taking part today, is just how to interact with me. So please find me on LinkedIn, connect with me. Not only do I share a lot of content and a lot of posts and do events and that sort of thing, but your network or your second and third degree network will instantly grow by being connected with me. So please do that. Or I launched a startup newsletter on Friday. It did have about 2,500. It'll have a bit more than that, but I'll start sharing blogs about once a month, really in detail, a little bit like this, but transcribed with images, with slides and things like that. And then the very final thing for you today is I don't work with too many startups, but there are always 1 or 2 either that I work as an advisor or as a consultant and work with them. So if there's anybody here that either wants some advice, wants a call, or wants to work more intensively, please let me know. And this whole strategy is what I've applied to many companies that are now scaling really like mad. It's incredible to see. But thank you so much. What I'm going to do is finish up with is just any of your questions, but please feel free to finish the call if you'd like to. So I think, Zoe, you were just saying, heard LinkedIn is very costly. How much do you spend on LinkedIn events? 0. You don't spend anything on LinkedIn events. I automate a lot of the advertising and messaging through my own software, which is prospectlabs.co, but I don't spend a penny on advertising at all. And my events get between 500 to 3,000 a month. Ibrahim, you were saying, how do you scale lead generation on LinkedIn for B2B businesses that need to grow by, say, 1,000 customers monthly? You need to find something that's one-to-many. And if you're just paying for ads, it doesn't scale. So the one-to-many, I would say, is try LinkedIn Live. So on LinkedIn, you have a feature called Creative Mode, and you can switch that on. And if you do LinkedIn Live and once a week, go live, share your product, do an interview, do some training, you're going to instantly get in front of all of your network constantly, weekly. So there's LinkedIn Live, then I'll do a LinkedIn newsletter, which again goes to all your connections. Then I would do a LinkedIn event, and then maybe something external like paid ads. But it's the one-to-many that you can do. But Ibrahim, I would look at LinkedIn Live as a way to just click and you're speaking to everybody in your network. Mark, yes, we have to meet in Vilnius. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your kind words. And then one final one here, I'm considering removing LinkedIn connections due to the newsletter invitation. Would it become that fact that you would stay with low quality connections that are all spammed? It depends by spam. If somebody's a connection of yours, you connected because you want to get to know each other. LinkedIn is not a Tinder platform or something. LinkedIn is a business platform where you should introduce your business, but really educate people about how to help them, and the outcome is working with you. But I think in terms of newsletters, you introduce a newsletter based on when you post your first newsletter, it introduces everybody in your network to say, be part of this. Now, I'm a startup trainer, startup coach, and I have a newsletter about helping startups. So when you say it might be spammed, well, it's not. If you're not interested, just don't read it. If you don't like the event, don't join. So I think the point to one-to-many training or one-to-many events is you don't have to impress everybody. It's a free event. People come. Some people love what you do. Some people hate what you do, but it's nothing personal. So I think find within all of you the people you want to connect with, the people you want to work with, the types of approaches you want to do, and make it work for you. So thank you so much for your time for everybody today. A few things to recap. I'll share the Google sheet. Try and clone that and put your own targets in, and just try and figure out a way of how do you get to the next 12 months. And most importantly, the top number, how many leads. And for B2B business, if you see you need any more than 50 leads without lots of salespeople, something's not quite right. You're looking for 20 to 30 leads a month that can convert to sales. If you've got a big sales team, fair enough, but about 20 to 30 leads with as a founder or per salesperson would be looking good. Then look to one-to-many approaches to build a community. Facebook groups, LinkedIn events, LinkedIn newsletter, LinkedIn Live, all these things, LinkedIn content that people can find you. And then finally, work with external people just to get the basics right. So spending an hour with me creating your LinkedIn searches would make much more sense than spending a week saying you're testing and hacking and it didn't work. Just ask somebody who knows what they're doing. LinkedIn, email, SEO, cold calling, whatever it is. So try and have these stacks where you work with an expert, they build a framework, you test it, and if it works, then really scale it up. But don't let the variable be you learning about how to use LinkedIn. The variable should be, is LinkedIn your target audience? So make sure you learn very quickly. So thank you so much, everybody, today. I'm going to share, switch that one off. I'm going to share all of the slides. I'm going to share all of the recordings. And please, if you ever want to connect with me, message me, grab a beer if you're in Lithuania, please do, and have a wonderful evening. And yeah, please keep in touch. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll speak to you soon.